What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is yours truly, Jay Smooth, here at the Rush Hour Sports Network, and as always, here on the NFL Show, joined by B Money. What's going on, sir?
What's up? What's up?
Good stuff. And we're here, of course, to just run through this past weekend of games and then preview next weekend's games, of course. Starting on Thursday night, Dallas beat the shorthanded Saints 27-17. This was pretty much exactly what you expected with two teams that were shorthanded on a Thursday night. Nothing too spectacular. Going on to Sunday, the Dolphins beat the Giants 20-9. The Dolphins starting to put together some wins. They're still one win away from 500, but they still have some ways to go. But at least they're trending in the right direction. And of course, the Giants are the Giants, which means they're not very good. The Colts beat the Texans 31-0. The Colts improved to 7-6. The Texans, of course, are 2-10, pretty much just playing for draft positioning at this point. Of course, the upset of the weekend was the Lions beating the Vikings 29-27. The Lions actually getting a win. They're probably the first and only win of the weekend. Of the season. And, of course, the Vikings dropping not only to 5-7, but of course having the most embarrassing loss of the season, which means that Mike Zimmer will probably be fired, something that should have happened 3 years ago. Unfortunately, Kirk Cousins won't be out the door with him, but he should because he's equally as terrible. Let's see, moving on. Yeah.
Hey, I had a feeling something told me the Lions had a chance that week. So.
Yeah, and if anything, it wasn't really more so the Lions winning. It was more so the Vikings just completely crashing and burning like I expected. And, hopefully the whole coaching staff goes along with it because I knew they weren't going to make the playoffs this year, but, yeah, having a loss like that hopefully it's a good thing because hopefully it means somebody will be fired because it needs to happen, especially after that.
Yeah.
And let's see, the Eagles beat the Jets 33-18. I mean, at this point, the Jets are the Jets, and of course the Eagles trying to trend in the right direction and get to 500. That whole division is bad, but the Eagles are certainly trying to climb in the right direction, but they're like limping in the right direction at this point. Let's see, the Cardinals beat the Bears 33-22. The Cardinals improved to 10-2. I believe they're the only team in the league right now to have 10 wins. So obviously they're going to have a playoff spot locked down. I mean, pretty much have their whole division locked at this point. And the Bears, of course, they're going to limp to the finish line and then fire Matt Nagy at the end of the season. So nothing they're playing for now matters. Let's see, the Chargers beat the Bengals 41-22. The Chargers improved to 7-5 after suffering a bit of a skid. And speaking of skids, the Bengals, they certainly did not show up too well in this game. Not one of their better performances, but certainly still a dangerous team nonetheless. But yeah, it certainly was not their day today. Well, not their day on Sunday. Let's see.
Yeah, it was a rough one for the Bengals.
Yes.
Kind of a bit of a surprising one too.
A little bit. The Chargers were due for a good game, so they certainly got it. But yeah, it's tough that it came against a good team, though. Well,
I expected more fight out of the Bengals.
Yeah, definitely. They certainly didn't put up that much of a fight. A lot of their points were scored in garbage time because that game was over by like halftime, I think.
Yeah. I mean, they started off slow. I think Joe Burrow had like 2 or 3 turnovers in the first half, and the Chargers were already up by like 2 or 3 scores.
Absolutely.
I think the Bengals did try to make a little bit of a comeback, but they just couldn't get there.
Yeah, this was a tough one for them, man. They're 7-5 though. They're still in a good spot, but I'll tell you what, the Bengals certainly need to get themselves some wins if they want to at least try to create, a little bit of distance between themselves and, at least enough distance to hold down a second place spot. And let's see. The Buccaneers beat up on the Falcons 30-17. The Buccaneers are 9-3. That's pretty much expected. The news, of course, is that we didn't even talk about it. Antonio Brown was suspended for using a fake vaccination card. I think it was, 3 games or something?
Yeah, I believe it's 3 games.
Him and somebody else on the Buccaneers got like 3 games. But yeah, so the Buccaneers are going to be missing him for an additional 2 games. He's lucky that's all he gets, because technically what he did was illegal. But of course, if you play in the NFL, you don't have to worry about stuff like that. Let's see though. Yeah, crazy times, man. Let's see. The Rams beat the Jaguars 37-7. This was a get right game for the Rams. They pretty much needed this to get back on track and finally get a win with that all-star roster they have. But I mean, hey, the Jaguars are 2-10. That pretty much tells you everything you need to know right there. They're pretty much the game that everybody looks on the schedule and says, okay, this is the game where we're gonna get right. And then of course, if you don't, then it's just a disaster. And then of course, another upset. My goodness, the Washington football team. Look at this. All of a sudden, this is now 3 in a row. They beat the Raiders 17-15 on the road. This was quite a surprise. I picked them, but quite a surprise here. This was like when I picked the Vikings and I completely bottomed out. This was the opposite. I picked Washington and they actually came through. And I gotta say, man, 3 in a row, 6-6. And Washington now goes into conference territory where they play the Cowboys coming up. I think that's where their winning streak is going to end. But I got to say, man, they put themselves right back into the playoff picture with that win.
Yeah, I mean, Washington's right there, and I think this team has a chance. I mean, they're getting hot at the right time of the year. You know that they have a relatively weaker schedule, facing mainly division opponents, and that division isn't very strong. So
that's true.
I think Washington's got a chance to slide in.
They do. They have the Cowboys twice, the Eagles twice, and I believe they have the Giants one time. I think they already played the Giants, but I'm not sure. But yeah, they like you said, all division games, and essentially, if they win out, then they're in the playoffs. It's essentially round robin style at this point. They can afford to lose, like Washington. If Washington loses one game, like if they lose the Cowboys next week, it's not so bad because they can easily rebound by putting a couple wins together against the Eagles and Giants, and then maybe get one against the Cowboys again, just split with them, or they can maybe get a split with them. Then they're going to be in a pretty good spot here, and it's quite a pleasant surprise considering Washington was like 1 or 2 losses away from their whole season being over.
Yeah, and their chances are high. I mean, let's not forget that there's really, after the Bucks and the Rams and Cardinals and Packers and Cowboys, after that, there's 2 more playoff spots in the wild card in which, if the season ended today, those spots would go to Washington and San Francisco at 6-6. Because right now, a 500 record is all you need.
That's true.
So it's very conceivable that we're going to see Washington in the playoffs for the second year in a row.
It's going to be very interesting. And what's crazy about this is, man, if Washington can go to the playoffs 2 years in a row, this time with a Taylor Heineke that's played a full season pretty much because Fitzpatrick was done after the first game. By the way, it was announced today he had season-ending hip surgery, so Fitzpatrick going to Washington was a total waste. But it ended up working out for him in the end because Heineke stepped up in a big way.
Yeah. I think the other thing you think about when you look at the NFC, we were planning on talking about the playoffs a little bit today anyway.
Yeah.
Is that outside of Washington and San Francisco, in the NFC, the only other team I see even coming close to challenging those two for a wild card spot would be Philadelphia.
Right.
Like, that's the only other team that's close enough to meet a challenge, and I don't think I have that type of faith in them at this point in time. I think Washington's just the better and hotter team.
I agree, man. Washington literally is like the hotter team right now, like you said. So it makes sense to kind of ride with them right now, you know.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I certainly got Washington going to the next game. That is for sure. Well, I don't know if they'll do, I don't know how they'll do against the Cowboys, but I think they can at least split with them, at least. But we'll see. And speaking of close calls, man, this one was heartbreaking for Ravens fans. Steelers win 20-19. Uh, Essentially, this was the back and forth type of game you expect, the rivalry game, and it came down to a 2-point conversion after a touchdown that was unsuccessful. Of course, an incomplete pass at the goal line from Lamar Jackson intended for Mark Andrews, which would have closed it out. It gotten the win and closed it, but unfortunately, the gamble did not pay off, and the Steelers get a much needed win at home to improve to 6-5-1. Ravens are 8-4 after that one. What are your thoughts? Oh, and also I forgot to
Yeah.
mention we also there were some injuries that came at a cost from this, including Marlon Humphrey, who's out for the year because of a torn pectoral muscle. I almost forgot to mention that.
Yeah, I think that's a huge loss for the Ravens going forward, and I'll talk about that in a moment.
Yes.
But as for this game, um, yeah, to me, it's a huge loss for the Ravens. I mean, it keeps the Steelers in contention for wild card or even the division. I mean, this AFC North Division is so close. I mean, we're talking about right now the Ravens coming into this game were the number one team in this division, and the Steelers were the bottom team. So this to show how close they are, anything can happen. But I mean, as always, Ravens Steelers games. I mean, no matter where either team is, always seem to be close and tough games. And Pittsburgh, more times than not, recently seems to come out on top. Um, and it's been kind of an Achilles heel for this era, Lamar Jackson Ravens. I think in this era, since Lamar Jackson's been the quarterback, I think the Ravens have only beat the Steelers
Oh,
once,
jeez.
or no, I think twice.
Yeah, I think it's been at least twice.
However, those two games that they won were two games that Mason Rudolph was the starting quarterback for the Steelers. Um, so it's a tough one to swallow. I think what makes it even tougher, too, is that even though the Ravens have been playing poorly for the past few weeks, and even though they played poorly again, particularly offensively, and Lamar Jackson having another very horrible game, that the Ravens were ahead for most of this game. As a matter of fact, until the go-ahead touchdown the Steelers had in the final minutes, the Ravens had the lead almost the entire game, which, not to say that it's the defense's fault for giving up. I mean, the defense is going to give up more than 3 points probably eventually. But if the Ravens offense, you got to score more than 15 points if you want to win a football game. I mean, I think when was the last time the Ravens scored more than 20 points in a football game? I think you have to go back to their Minnesota comeback, I think about a month ago. And offensively, that's just not winning football if you can't put up, at least 20 points a game. And it's not what we're accustomed to seeing. And the Ravens need to figure it out and to get better. I mean, the Steelers, as I said, they're still alive. I don't expect them to go much further, though. But for now, they're here. The Ravens, I'm a little fishy on. I'd say they're on a downtrend. I think the Marlon Humphrey injury moving forward is going to be huge for them. The defense has played better in the last few weeks, but at times has been very suspect this season, partly because of injuries that they already had with Marcus Peters being out this year. And I know they lost to Sean Elliott, their safety, as well earlier this season. So there's already some problems on this Ravens defense, or some holes that they've been trying to fill already. And I think Marlon Humphrey is going to be a huge hole for them to try to fill here going down the stretch. I think what's going to be most interesting for the Ravens defense is how is their defensive coordinator, Mike Martindale, going to game plan moving forward, because at times I feel like, even though Marlon Humphrey has not had his best season this year, he still played well enough to where some of the show coverages at times that Wink Martindale may put his secondary in with all the blitzing at times that, you know, Marlon Humphrey and company have played well enough, and particularly recently, to kind of save face in some of those situations. But, you know, without Marlon, without that threat in the back, you know, I can't see how the Ravens defense can continue to play the aggressive style that they play. I think they got to be able to put the players in players now are not as high quality as they may have had before in positions to succeed. But yeah, I'm concerned about the offense and Lamar Jackson and how they're doing things on that side of the ball. Again, another rough game. And some other news coming out of Ravens camp, I don't know if you heard about this, Jay, is that Ravens rookie receiver Rashad Bateman got a new agent this week. And no one said for sure why or what's going on. But of course, some people have had some rumors, some people have had some thoughts that maybe Rashad Bateman's not too happy in Baltimore and is already looking to get out.
You know, I actually didn't know about that news, so I do appreciate you updating us on that. But since he is looking for a new agent, you know, it makes sense, and I'll say this: he's been a great weapon for the Ravens offense. Been a great weapon, but yeah, and he's been, and the fact that they're featuring him like fresh off his injury, they're giving him the looks he wants and everything. I just think it's interesting that he would kind of feel unhappy about it, because if he's unhappy with the amount of looks he's given now and what he's doing right now, my guess is he probably wants to be primary focus number one and not be, you know, like the folk, like basically play second, you know, like second fiddle to somebody. And I can kind of understand that from that standpoint, but at the same time, it's weird because you never. Oh, you good?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, okay, cool. But yeah, like I was pretty much saying that. I guess he wants to feel like the man. Like he wants to feel like he's number one instead of having. Because I guess he's not really the true number one over here, but he wants to be a number one. That's gonna be my guess. But in a way, he should be though. He kind of should be number one.
Well, I mean, in a lot of ways, I'd say he's probably like number 3 or 4. Like,
yeah.
It's between him and Sammy Watkins at this point.
Yeah.
But I think what's interesting though about him, when you look at his games this season, I'm actually going to pull up his stats here, and it's something that I've been noticing kind of on the low, is that when he got here, you know,
right.
he was, well, when he first got here, I forget what his first game was, but he was playing pretty well. You know, he was getting a lot of targets earlier on, and I feel like particularly in recent games, his targets have gone down, and that's what I'm concerned about, of them using him less. As a matter of fact, here, I got his stats right here. Rashad Bateman this season, he's played in 5 games this year.
Right.
And just to put it simply of how things have gone, in his first 3 games, so his first 3 games were against Minnesota was his first, and then he had Miami and Chicago. You know, we got those games. Even though Chicago, you know, Tyler Huntley was quarterback, but we'll move on from that. Actually, hold on. Let me pull up the entire season. So I was missing a couple other games. All right, so basically from the Chargers game was his first game. My apologies.
Oh, okay.
Going back to October 17th, all the way through until Lamar went out, he was getting about 6 to 8 targets a game.
Okay.
Meanwhile, against Cleveland last week, only 4 targets. And against Pittsburgh this past Sunday, he had 1 target.
So his targets went down, and he probably on impulse is not happy about that.
Well, yeah, and I mean, and then you look at the way the offense has performed, particularly in these games that he's been getting less targets, where the offense just has not been playing well and hasn't been, you know, been able to get things going. You feel like you've seen, particularly in the last couple of games, Lamar kind of try to force feed Mark Andrews maybe a little bit too in there.
Right, and I mean, and at this point, we all have a Lamar Jackson bingo card. You know, there's the interception, there's the fumble, there's the crazy throw that he has where he just completely misses a target that he should have had. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah, whether it's a turnover or just an incomplete pass. Like, we have a Lamar Jackson scorecard now. Like, we can expect a fumble from him. We can expect an interception from him. Even if we win, he can throw four. And he's the only quarterback that can throw four picks and win a game. I've never seen that before.
But with that being said, it gets me also with talking about Rashad Bateman too, is that you wonder too, because Rashad Bateman, we talk about Lamar's interceptions. Rashad Bateman has been responsible for two of Lamar's interceptions this season, where there were passes. There was one I remember, I think it was his first game against the Chargers, where a ball freakily it hit Rashad right in the chest, but he didn't catch it, and he kicked it up, and the Chargers intercepted it. But then there was another one in that 4-interception game against Cleveland. There was a play, I think it was in the second quarter, where I think Lamar was intending a pass for Mark Andrews, but Bateman was running a crossing route in front, and Bateman went for the ball, and the ball went off of his hands, away from Mark Andrews, and into the hands of a defender. And there's been maybe some rumblings that because of that, after that play, Rashad Bateman got put in the doghouse. Because again, I mean, after that, he's barely seen any targets since.
Well, hey.
And I remember there being also a similar play that happened in the Pittsburgh game, too, where I think Lamar was intending a throw for Devonta Freeman or something, and Rashad Bateman, tried to dive and get it when the pass was not for him. So maybe he's been missing some routes. Maybe he's been missing some plays. Just been in the wrong place at the wrong time, not on the same page. But maybe he's been in the doghouse.
Well, whatever it is, it's caused him to get a new agent and want the hell out of here. So, hey.
And again, we don't know for sure if he wants out. Maybe he's just getting a new agent because maybe the old agent wronged him in some way or did something. But it is peculiar that, he decides, this week, after a couple games where he's not used very much, that he decides to go and get a new agent. So we'll see what happens next. Again, Rashad hasn't said anything publicly. The Ravens haven't said anything publicly about what's going on. So just speculation at this point. Juicy speculation, if you will.
Yeah, certainly speculation. I'm sure, well, you and I will keep our eye on. I'm not sure if many of the viewers will, but at least you and I will. But let's see. In our next game, we have the Seahawks and 49ers. Seahawks win 30-23. They needed this win, actually, because they've had a terrible season. Their season's already done, though. They're 4-8. So they pretty much bottomed out at this point. And the 49ers are 6-6. They're holding on to a final playoff spot in the conference, but we will see what they can do going forward. They certainly cannot afford to lose any more games, though, that's for sure. Let's see. The Chiefs beat the Broncos 22-9. I guess it's Skull Drag of the Week because, I mean, the only other game I guess that kind of qualifies would be the Buccaneers and Falcons, maybe Eagles and Jets. Actually, no, Colts and Texans because that's a shutout. That's probably Skull Drag of the Week.
For me, Skull Drag of the Week is the Chargers-Bengals game just because we expected the Texans to get dragged. We expected the Jets to get dragged. We expect the Jaguars to get dragged. We were not expecting the Bengals to get dragged.
Well, yeah, we can definitely label that like upset of the week. At least with teams like the Jets and the Jaguars, we and the Texans, like they are skull drag material every week. So they definitely qualify. But yeah, I guess if you want to throw like the upset twist in there, then yeah. Chargers,
upset
Bengals
goes to
can.
the Lions.
Well, yeah, no. As far as upsets go, yeah, like straight up upsets, yeah, it's Lions. But if we're talking like if we're putting the skull drag criteria on just like something we didn't expect, then yeah, Chargers, Bengals, it can definitely fit in that category.
Gotcha.
Absolutely, but yeah, Chiefs, Broncos. I mean, this one doesn't qualify too much, even though it pretty much was one-sided. The Chiefs, of course, improved to 8-4. Broncos fall to 6-6, but their season's pretty much done anyways. Even though like Patrick Surtain has had a good year, and they lost Von Miller, at this point they're kind of playing for they're pretty much playing for next season and seasons beyond. They're just a rebuild team, and then of course Monday night. Can I say this? Probably the sloppiest Monday night game we've seen for obvious reasons. The weather was bad. Uh, Mac Jones threw what 3 passes the whole night.
Yes, he did.
It was old school Pee Wee football where they just run the ball the whole time. Man threw 3 passes. Meanwhile, Josh Allen threw 30 passes in the freezing cold with wind gusts that hit I think almost up to 30 miles, which was insane. And of course they fall short by 4 points, 14-10 to the Patriots. Don't look now. The Patriots, they look good, man. They look really good. It sucks to say, but the Patriots look amazing right now. And actually, that was one. And actually,
number 1 team in the AFC.
Absolutely. Actually, it was funny because they were an underdog this week, which I thought was a bit of a shock, and I actually put some money on them, so that was a good one to have. But yeah, Patriots are now number 1 in the entire AFC conference, and don't look now, but I think Belichick has found himself a quarterback that, I mean, he's not going to be Brady, but he's going to do everything that Belichick needs him to do in order for the team to be successful. And in this case, they didn't even really need him. They just needed the running game and the defense to be there, and they all came through. Mac Jones had the easy job of just throwing 3 passes.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff, man.
It's wild.
I will say though, don't look now, bro. Even though the Bills are 7-5, they need to get their stuff together, man. They really need to get it together because all these losses are starting to pile up a little bit, and it's not looking good because they were looking like the scary team in the AFC, and suddenly they're not that anymore.
Yeah. I honestly, for me, that's been the biggest surprise is that the Bills have not been the dominant team that I expected them to be coming in this year. You know, they were my preseason, team to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. So
I agree with that, man. I agree with that 100%. But let's go ahead and look forward to Week 14. This is going to be a very interesting week. Thursday night. This is going to be an interesting game. I'm actually going to be covering a boxing event, so I'm going to be watching this side by side. The Vikings and the Steelers are going to be playing in Minnesota. I'm going to pick the Steelers because they are still hungry and looking for a playoff spot. Meanwhile, the Vikings are pretty much done after losing to the Lions, and at this point, they're not going to play for Mike Zimmer anymore after that. That team's not inspired. Plus, they don't have Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen's going to be out. And Dalvin Cook's going to be out for that game, too.
Yeah, I'm picking the Steelers, too.
Yeah.
I hate it.
I know, right? Hopefully the Vikings can pull off an upset, but without Dalvin Cook and without Adam Thielen, it seems like an impossible task. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, and look at this, 1 o'clock. This game should be Sunday Night Football, I think. I think this should have been a Sunday night game. Cowboys and Washington.
Better than the Sunday night game we do have.
Yeah, I was about to say Cowboys and Washington, like Dallas and Washington, have something to play for this week. You know what I mean? So this, like you said, way better than the game we got for Sunday night. But anyways, the rivalry at 1 o'clock, Washington and Dallas. This is in Washington, mind you. So this is in D.C., in Maryland. A lot of Cowboys fans going to be rolling through the entire state trying to take over like a bunch of hicks. That being said, though, CeeDee Lamb is special. Amari Cooper, of course, is good for that offense. And, of course, we see when Dak has the weapons, he can put in some work. So Washington's been on a good streak, but I think they're going to take a loss here. Like, they're going to be fine. They could very well take a playoff spot, but I believe, they're going to take a loss here.
Yeah, I agree. Have they played already this season, the Cowboys in Washington?
No, I believe the Giants and Washington have, but I don't believe the Cowboys and Washington have.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think for now, I'm going to pick the Cowboys to win this game. It should be a good one, though.
Oh, yeah, this is going to be very good. I'm going to be watching this one side by side with the Ravens, which we'll talk about in a second. Jaguars Titans, this is a nothing game, and it sucks because the Titans were once a very scary team, but as we can see, bro, they're not scary anymore, man. They let go of Adrian Peterson. That whole team's falling apart.
They had a lot of injuries this year, I know.
Yeah, a lot of injuries on that squad, man. They're pretty much just waiting for Derrick Henry to come back in December, but even when December rolls around, I think they'll be long gone by then. They'll be cooked. However, with that being said, they beat the Jaguars here because the Jaguars are tanking for the draft at this point.
Yeah, I think that the Titans are going to survive with a win here.
Absolutely. The Jaguars are that one team everybody wants on the schedule, that's for sure. And speaking of teams that teams want on the schedule, the Seahawks travel to Houston to play the Texans at 1 o'clock. The Seahawks are going to get a win here, and trust me, they need it in the worst way, even though I think things in Seattle are done, man. I don't see Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll surviving this offseason.
Yeah, I don't see them, sliding into the playoffs in a final spot. I think that loss to Washington was huge for them. But, I do also see them getting a win. And, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this team kind of gets blown apart this offseason.
Absolutely. And you know what? It kind of feels that way, too. Like, honestly, it felt that way for me when Washington beat them on the Monday night. I'm like, damn, this was their game to save their season, but when they lost to Washington, it kind of felt like the Seahawks were done at that point.
Yeah, and in a lot of ways, it feels like we're getting to the true end of an era with the Seahawks.
Oh yeah, man, the Legion of Boom's been done a long time, but yeah, you're right though. Like the Pete Carroll era is going to be over with. Russell Wilson era going to be done within a little bit. That squad's going to look different in the next few years. That's for sure. And let's see, over at 1 o'clock. Oh, I'm surprised it's on at 1 o'clock. The Raiders travel to Kansas City to play the Chiefs. Oh, man. You know what? I'm going Kansas City on this one, man. Kansas City's starting to heat up a little bit again. Now that it's, getting to close to the end of the regular season, I think the Chiefs are starting to get into playoff mode.
Yeah, I think so, too. And I think the Raiders are starting to get in playoff mode, too, which means they're starting to lose. So I'm picking the Chiefs.
Oh, man. And how disappointed are you in the Raiders, bro? I mean, I know they've had the thing with Henry Ruggs and that corner and John Gruden, but, I mean, that loss to Washington really made that team feel different, did it not?
Yeah, I think that was kind of the end for it. I mean, they've just had so much to deal with off the field that the organization is just shot for this year.
It is, and poor Darren Waller was injured, so he had to stand on the sideline and watch the whole thing happen. It's a damn shame. The Saints play the Jets. The Saints are gonna win that. They're a get-right game, but I'm gonna say this though. Taysom Hill sucks, man. I'm sorry, but he's a good, runner. Like, and somebody said I heard somebody say it on TV the other day. He's essentially the new version of Tim Tebow. He's a big guy that can run, but he throws a lot of his balls in the turf because he can't throw. He's awful. He's like a tight end, but he can't. He has no throwing power. So Taysom Hill as a quarterback, not a good idea. The Saints have wasted money with this guy. I don't know why they paid him, thinking, oh, maybe he'll start as a quarterback. If he does...
They really did just give him an extension a couple weeks ago, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. That little weird hybrid contract where, like, oh, if he starts as a quarterback, he'll get paid more. It's like, he's not going to be a quarterback. He doesn't deserve to start as one, man. Trevor Siemian is miles ahead of him. Jameis is miles ahead of him. Taysom Hill, at best, is a gadget player. Use him as a tight end or fullback, but not a quarterback, With that being said, though, the Saints are going to win this game.
Yeah, I think this game could be close, but I think ultimately what's going to be the difference in this game is going to be the Saints' defense.
That's
It's
true.
going to make this one happen for them.
I agree with that one right there, man. Because they do have Zach Wilson back, so we'll see how they treat him. Let's see. Falcons play the Panthers. 2-5-7 teams. Two bad teams. I'm going to pick Cameron Newton at home, but boy, Panthers are a sad case this year. Too many injuries.
Yeah, and I really want to pick the Falcons to win this game, but or put it this way, the conventional logic, especially see how badly Cam has played since he's been back.
Right.
I think the Falcons are going to win this game, but for these picks, I'm going to pick the Panthers just because I want to see Cam at least win one game this season.
Yeah, that would be great, man. If Cam could actually win a game, not just do a couple goal line plays and say that he's back, only for him to get his face kicked in the very next week.
Yeah.
That would be nice. Oh, and look at who we get to play, or the Ravens get to play. They get to play the Browns at home. This is a 1 o'clock game. This is going to be a get-right game for the Ravens because the Browns suck. They ran off OBJ. Baker Mayfield is exposed as well as a wounded animal. And as far as the rest of that team goes, I mean, I feel bad for like the Myles Garretts on that team, like the real players, the real ball players, because all of them are stuck with that bum as the quarterback. So give me the Ravens on the road. Who you got?
I'm picking the Browns.
I'm
picking the Browns to win this game because I think there's still something left in the tank. They're coming off the bye.
You sure about that?
So they're coming off the bye. Their last game was against the Ravens, so they've had 2 weeks to look back at that last game, turn some things around, and at this point, especially with the Ravens losing Marlon Humphrey on defense, I don't know what's going to happen there. And with how the offense has been abysmal for almost an entire month straight,
right?
I feel like the Browns are going to come out and they're going to exploit some things that they've seen over the past couple of weeks. Now that they've had time, and this game's in Cleveland too. I'm picking the Browns.
I mean, hey, if the Browns are able to exploit something in a team, that'd be the first time this year with all the sloppy play they got. I'm glad somebody has faith in them because I think even Browns fans are kind of like, what the fuck? We're supposed to be dominant here. But we will see though. But yeah, I will say though, this game heavily depends on how the Ravens play because the Ravens could very well hand this game over to the Browns, and if the Browns feel like winning, they're going to pick it up and run. But if the Browns don't want to win, it's going to be just like the first time we played them, where we're just going to trade it off. We're going to trade turnovers and see who wants to lose.
Yeah.
I have a feeling it might end up like that, to be honest. I wouldn't be shocked.
And right now, you talk about the lack of trust with Baker Mayfield, but even though he's my guy, I'm not really trusting the Ravens offense right now either. So.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's why I feel like this could very well be a turnover fest, and it could come down to who's going to throw that final pick six with 20 seconds left.
Yeah, and with that being said, it comes down to whose defense do I think is going to be better in this game, and the Browns' defense is healthier, so by default, I'm going to pick the Browns.
Yeah, that is very true. That is true.
They got more playmakers right now.
Yeah, they do. That is a good point. That's gonna be an interesting game because these two are literally just gonna trade off. I can see it. It's gonna be a turnover fest. But yeah, we're gonna see whose defense prevails in that one. That'll be fun to watch. Let's see. And then that's the final 1 o'clock game. So 4 o'clock. Oh, this could be a skull drag alert with the Chargers and Giants in LA. Yeah, give me the Chargers all day.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Good stuff. Oh, 4:05. Well, the Lions got their one win. That means they're going to bottom out the rest of the season, right?
I would believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
They've done what they came here to do.
Yeah, I was about to say the Vikings were generous enough to lay down and give them that victory. So now that the Lions are done celebrating their version of the Super Bowl, because let's face it, that was their Super Bowl right there.
Yeah,
Since they didn't get it on Thanksgiving like I thought they would. Give me the Broncos at home, and I assume you were picking the same.
correct.
And now things get interesting. 425 in Cincinnati. A 6-6 determined 49ers traveled to Cincinnati to face the Bengals. You know what, Joe Burrow, I'm going to need you to wake up in this one because I'm going to pick Cincinnati at home.
Yeah, both of these teams are coming off of tough losses.
Yes, they are.
And
This is must win
I
for
think
both.
the Bengals need this one more because at least their tough loss last week, I mean, their tough loss was just an ass whooping in their own stadium. At least the Niners were on the road, when they lost. Like,
That's so true.
I'm picking the Bengals.
That's so true. So yeah, we're both on the Bengals on that one. Oh man.
Yeah, like you got me. So, like, you can't get whooped at home, bro. You can't let somebody
Right.
come in your crib and beat your ass.
Exactly. You can't let it happen. You cannot let it happen. And this league is too ruthless, man. You can't let it happen. Whoa, now this is going to be a big game at 425. The Bills traveling to Tampa to face the Bucks. Must win game for the Bills. Must win with how they've been playing, with the skid they've been on, with how hot they started the season and how they've been skidding along since. This is must win. Another game that the Buccaneers do not have Antonio Brown. The Bills need to take advantage of that. I am going. With that being said, give me the Bucks at home.
Yeah, this is the potential to be one of the games of the week.
I believe so.
And yeah, you couldn't be more right. The Bills, I think, need this win in the worst way.
They do.
And that's what makes this game tough to pick. Is like, do you think the Bills are going to come out and be desperate enough to sneak a win off the Bucks when they're maybe get their guard down?
And I actually, it's funny you say that because I really do want to pick the Bills here, because the Buccaneers don't have AB and they don't have a couple other players, but
I mean, for what it's worth, the Bills don't have Tre'Davious White, and
yeah, that's
they
true.
don't have their top corner. So who's covering Mike Evans? Who's covering Chris Godwin?
Right.
So they still got to worry about those guys too.
Yeah, so it's like I'm gonna lean the Bills and trust. I mean, lean the Buccaneers and trust them here. But who do you think takes it?
Yeah, it pains me because I was really hoping the Bills were going to be on it this year, but I'm gonna pick the Bucks, dude.
I'm with you, man. I actually had
But
hope
if I
for
was
them.
a betting man, I wouldn't be surprised if the Bills came out and showed us them.
Absolutely. And by the way, speaking of betting, I'm gonna go through the underdog. I'm gonna go through the the picks in a minute to give my 3-piece and a biscuit that I always give out, and I want you to let me know if you approve of it or not. But we'll get to that right after these next two games. The Bears and Packers. Now, Aaron Rodgers already owns the Bears, and now the Bears have to go to Lambeau Field. I think Aaron Rodgers is once again going to own them, and this time he's going to own them in his house.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
By the way, I think we can chalk this up as another game that is going to be added to the Matt Nagy hot seat, if you will. I will say though.
It could be, but I mean,
I will say
I
no.
think we're all expecting the Bears to lose anyways. Too.
I will say though, nobody's hot seat. No, nobody's seat is hotter in the NFC North when it comes to coaches than Mike Zimmer's. Because if you lose to the Lions, you're automatically on the hot seat. Automatically. No question. And then Monday night, very important Monday night game. The star-studded Rams, 8-4, off a get-right cakewalk game against the Jaguars, traveling to the desert to face the 10-2 Arizona Cardinals. Man, I want to trust the Rams so bad, but they struggled a bit. They had their little get right game, their little scrimmage with the Jaguars to get that offense in sync and get that defense waking up. But I don't know if it's going to be enough to hold back the Cards. So you know what? Give me the Birds at home. I'll take Arizona.
Well, I just want things to get interesting. So I'm going to pick the Rams to win this game.
All right, that's fair.
I want to see things get interesting down the stretch of this season in the in the NFC West with this division. So
I do too. I do too. My only thing with the Rams is, can they handle that high power Cardinals offense, and can that Rams offense do some damage to the Cardinals defense? It's going to be an interesting game to watch. It's actually one of the better Monday night games that we got. And honestly, one of the things I like about the NFL, I like that they save the conference games toward the end of the season so we get high stakes matchups like this.
Yes.
I like that a lot. Now then, before we get out of here, I am going to go to mybookie.ag because I am going to give you my 3 picks for the week. And I want to let you know, I want you to let me know if you like it or if you don't like it. Just 3 simple picks for the weekend in terms of gambling. So let's see. The Thursday night game, I'm going to fade. Wait. Hold up. The Vikings are a 3-point favorite over the Steelers on Thursday night.
That's funny.
The money line is Vikings minus 170, Steelers plus 145. I hate the Steelers, but you know what? That's going to be my first pick of the week. I'm going to take Steelers plus 3 in that one. What do you think about that?
I agree.
Hey, you know what? That is hilarious. That what makes them think the Vikings are favorite after losing to the Lions? What? Vegas, what are you doing? What the hell? Oh my goodness. Let's see. Raiders, Chiefs. Okay, I expected that. I'm going to fade that one. Saints and Jets. Excuse me, I'm going to fade that. Titans, Jaguars, going to fade that. We're not worried about that one. Oh. Browns minus 135, Ravens plus 115. And the spread is only 2.5 points. Browns are a favorite. I'm thinking about laying, you know what? I know I picked the Ravens, but for gambling purposes, I may lay 2 points on the Browns. That's not a bad pick, you think?
I mean, I picked the Browns to win the game, so.
But if you were a gambling man and your money's on the line, are you going for the 2-point spread? Like, are you that confident in it, or are you just going to pick it and then just kind of fade it gambling-wise?
I can kind of get with the spread.
Okay, so let's add that. We're going to go in our division for this week. Then we have the Steelers at plus 3. I'll do the Browns at minus 2 as a favorite. So let's see our third game. Let's see, Atlanta and Carolina. I'm going to fade that one. Ooh. Oh, no, I'm not going to do that. I thought about Washington and the Cowboys, but no, I think Washington as an underdog makes a lot of sense at 4 points. Let's see. Seahawks favorite. Yeah, we don't need to see that. Lions, of course, are an underdog. They're an 8-point underdog. That is hilarious. 1 win, they still get disrespected. That's funny. Let's see. Chargers favorite. I expected that. Okay. All right, we got something here. Let's see. The Bengals minus 115, 49ers minus 105. The 49ers are actually the underdog, and it's only 1 point. They're a 1-point underdog. Bengals are a 1-point favorite. I think they can cover that point. I may have to go Bengals on this one. Well, I may have to add the Bengals at that one, minus 1. What do you think?
Maybe.
I think that's a possibility. Now, here's one I want to hear your opinion about. The Buccaneers are a 3-point favorite. The Bills are at plus 3 as an underdog. That sounds about right to you, doesn't it?
I'd say so.
Yeah, so interesting. What would you now, knowing that the Bills are a 3-point underdog? Would you still go for the Buccaneers in that situation, or would you maybe give thought to the Bills if you were a gambler, just hypothetically?
I would give a thought to the Bills about upsetting. Yeah.
Okay, so you know what? We're going to add in the Bengals as our third piece of the week, but if you all want a bonus pick, think about the Buffalo Bills. Think about the Bills at +3. Don't go for the money line, because money line is saying that the Bills are going to win no matter what. The safe bet is to take the Bills on the spread. That way, if you get the points, you get extra money for that. So, yeah, consider the Bills at +3. That's like a bonus one right there. The Bears, of course, 12.5-point underdogs as expected. Now, Monday night, you'll be interested in this. The Rams are only a 2.5-point underdog to the Cardinals. 2.5 points. Would you think about that?
I would.
I think I would
the
too.
Rams win the game, so yeah, I would.
You know what? I would think about it too. If I was gonna bet on this one, I certainly would think about the Rams at +2.5. I think about the Bills at +3. Ones that you and I are certainly confident about. The Bengals at -1 could definitely hit. Let's see what's the other two. The Browns at -2.5. That one should hit over the Ravens. Even though I'm picking the Ravens, I like your thinking behind the Browns possibly winning because they have the better defense. So I could very well see that. And then our third pick is going to be, and I think you can agree, this is probably going to be the easiest pick of the weekend. The Steelers at +3 over the Vikings. I'd say that's easy money. What do you think?
I think so.
I think it's interesting because I think so too, because think about it. No Adam Thielen, no Dalvin Cook, no Everson Griffin too, because Everson Griffin's still having the mental health issues. He's, I think, in the psych ward still. So, yeah, they're missing some pieces. The Vikings are missing pieces, and the Steelers need themselves a win. I'm actually surprised the Steelers are an underdog, even though they're on the road and it's a short week. I'm surprised they're an underdog. I'm going to go ahead and lay the +3 myself. I'm actually confident that they're going to beat the Vikings. So, folks, if you want gambling picks, go Steelers. Hold on. Okay, so yeah, go Steelers, Browns. Let's see. Our third team was Cincinnati, the Bengals. So basically, the entire AFC North Division. Just bet the AFC North Division except for the Ravens. I know, this is so crazy, ain't it? And then for bonus plays, consider the Bills at +3 and consider the Rams at +2.5. So I think that's pretty sufficient right there. 3 underdogs and 2 favorites. I think that's pretty sufficient. What do you think?
Yeah.
That's perfect, right? That's perfect. Is there any additional NFL news that we should discuss or at least put out there before we wrap it up for the week?
Well, I guess the only other thing that I can think of, I mean, we already talked about...
I forgot. You have to do your scenario, you have to do your segment where we talk about the current, the
playoff setting, yes.
Yes, that's what we forgot to do. I knew we forgot something, but we basically need to talk about the current standings and the playoff scenarios, playoff picture.
Indeed.
So I will give you the floor on this. We
already kind of talked about the NFC a little bit, but I'll just do a quick review before the AFC.
Okay.
So in the NFC, we'll talk about the NFC East. Currently, the Dallas Cowboys lead the division at 8-4.
Mm-hmm.
In the NFC North, the Green Bay Packers lead the division at 9-3. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers lead the division in the NFC South at 9-3. And if the season ended today, your number one seed in the NFC would be the Arizona Cardinals, who are currently 10-2.
Interesting.
Your wild cards, if the season ended today, the number 5 seed, first wild card,
would
be the Los Angeles Rams at 8-4.
8-4, nice.
Your number 6 seed would be the Washington football team at 6-6.
Rising up a point after beating the Raiders. And actually, by the way, I do have graphics on this, so I'm glad you're giving audio.
And the number 7 seed, the San Francisco 49ers, also at 6-6.
Absolutely. Falling down one spot after losing to the Seahawks, according to the screen.
Indeed. So the biggest things to look out for as we go into the final month of the season, I guess just about, is that there's still a chance that and this is why I want the Rams to beat the Cardinals, because the Cardinals are 2 games ahead in that division. So if the Rams can take one, I mean, we're looking at potentially a little shootout for the winner of that division going down the stretch between those 2 teams, where right now the Cardinals are the number one seed, getting that bye week. Remember, with 7 playoff teams, only 1 team gets the bye week. So it could be the Cardinals. It could also be the Packers. Could also be the Bucs that are right there. You know, the Cardinals could end up being a wild card team. So there's some different things that can happen there.
Interesting.
Outside of that, you know, I think the Packers have just about wrapped up the North. I think the Bucs have just about wrapped up the South.
Yeah.
There's still a little bit of play with the Cowboys and the Washington football team. That's what makes this game this week so interesting for the NFC East. I'd venture to say if the Cowboys win this game, they win the division.
I agree. So, I actually agree with that, and I'm glad you said that. The East and the West and the NFC are wide open. As a guy that has seen every Vikings game, I can pretty much confirm, the Packers got the North wrapped up. NFC South pretty much wrapped up. But honestly, I'm with you. If the Cowboys do win this weekend, even though they're going to have the division wrapped up, there's still a chance Washington can get in as a wild card. But as far as the division goes, yes, if the Cowboys win this weekend, I think they'll have a big enough lead margin to where they can wrap it up, because the second place team only has 6 wins?
Yeah, there's 2 games behind, but if the Cowboys get a win, they're 3 games. So
right.
There you go.
Absolutely.
But then as far as the wild card looks, as I said, you know, with the Rams having such a high record, I think it's just about confirmed the Rams will be in the playoffs. As I said, the question is, are they going to make a late surge to take the division away from the Cardinals, or are they just going to remain a wild card?
Right.
So the real question is going to be these last 2 wild card spots, currently Washington and San Francisco, holding them at 6-6. But on the outside, looking in on the bubble, you have the Philadelphia Eagles right there at 6-7, a half a game behind. And then technically, you got some other teams on the bubble, like the Vikings and the Panthers and the Falcons and the Saints, who are all at 5-7. But personally, for me, I don't see either of those teams making a play. I really feel like it's just going to come down to
right.
Are the Eagles going to make any noise or not? They're the only team on the bubble to me that has a shot.
Well, yeah, pretty much, because all the other bubble teams don't have a shot. I mean, the Vikings are done, Panthers are done, Falcons, Saints, Giants, Bears, Seattle. Yeah, all those other teams are pretty much through. It's pretty much up to the Eagles at this point. Eagles are the only one on the bubble, realistically, in the NFC that has a chance of maybe getting a final spot, but it's all about what they can do with what the 49ers do, of course, and what Washington does.
Yeah, those are the teams that control their destinies at this point.
Right. Good stuff. So that is the NFC, and what do you have for the AFC?
So moving over to the AFC, if the season ended today, Week 12, that was where we finished it off.
Yes.
The number 1 seed, to everyone's surprise, would be the New England Patriots, who are currently 9-4 and first place in the AFC East.
Once again, back, they rose up a spot after beating the Bills, and like you said, to everyone's surprise, Mac Jones Bill Belichick, Steve Belichick, they're getting it done in New England, and like I said, it's really a shock, and it's to a point where I think they could very much wrap up that division because they have a good lead over the Bills, and they have a good lead over everybody else in there. I mean, I know a couple of other teams are there, but it doesn't matter at this point. I think the Patriots are going to have that division wrapped.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for Bills fans, but I think that Monday night game might have wrapped it up.
I think so.
For the division.
I think so too.
But moving ahead, the number 2 seed of the season ended today would be the Tennessee Titans, winning the AFC South. The number 3 seed at 8-4 are the Baltimore Ravens, in first place in the AFC North, and then also 8-4 and first place in the AFC West. Your final division first place, or your final division
leader
header right now is the Kansas City Chiefs in the West.
Very interesting. So, yeah, it's interesting that the Titans, of course, are still number 1 considering everything that's happened to them. Same with the Ravens. The Chiefs are finally starting to wake up at this part of the season where they're, becoming dangerous a bit. So, I think the Chiefs are the only one that really have their spot locked down. The Ravens up in the air. The South, I don't know if the South is really going to be all that competitive, like for the Titans, but even if the Titans get in, it's going to be a one-and-done scenario for them, I think, considering where they are now. But, yeah, I think the only spot that's really locked down so far is the Chiefs and the Patriots.
Yeah, we'll talk about this in a second. I got some thoughts, but
okay.
First to finish out the wild card teams of the season ended today. All 3 wild card teams are currently 7-5.
Mm-hmm.
The number 5 seed would be the Los Angeles Chargers.
Going up 2
number
spots.
Number 6, the Cincinnati Bengals, and number 7, hanging on by a thread, is the Buffalo Bills.
Very interesting. The Bengals fall down 1. The Bills fall down 1. The Chargers go up 2 spots. Funny enough, after their recent win. And now the bubble teams.
Yeah, so, and then you have the bubble teams. And in the AFC, I think actually some bubble teams are really important. Unlike in the NFC, where I only saw the Eagles as the only team with a chance. I think there's some teams in the AFC that, it's so tight. Just because you look at these bubble teams, and there are, 6 teams that are all kind of within a game of each other. All around 6-6, just about.
Yeah, like the only 2 teams that aren't are the Jets and the Jaguars, obviously, so yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be an exciting finish for the AFC, which, oh, by the way, you talk about the bottom teams. Let me also put a shout-out to the Houston Texans, who are officially the first team to be eliminated from playoff contention.
Yeah, let me make sure I get that on screen. Yeah, there you go. They're officially eliminated. That should put them at it doesn't put them at number 1 in the draft order, but it should, because why are the Lions still eligible?
Well, the Lions are still eligible because the NFC does not have as many strong teams.
Oh, that is hilarious. The Texans...
But, I mean, all it means is they'll be eliminated this week.
Pretty much.
Upcoming week, I believe.
Pretty much, because the Texans at 2-10 right there says a lot. That's funny. They're the very first ones to be eliminated, and it suits them right.
Yes, indeed.
And by the way, this makes them number 1, doesn't it? No, I'm sorry. The Lions are number 1 technically in the draft order. Yeah.
Yeah. But this would technically make, I guess, the Texans number 2.
Right.
As of right now.
That's true.
But yeah, so the bubble teams, these are all the teams that I'm about to name that are around 6-6, or at least have 6 wins.
Okay.
That are right there in the AFC. You have the Pittsburgh Steelers at 6-5-1. You have the Indianapolis Colts at 7-6. The Las Vegas Raiders at 6-6. The Cleveland Browns at 6-6. The Denver Broncos at 6-6, and the Miami Dolphins at 6-7. So it's going to be a lot to figure out of what's going to go on. But here's some of my thoughts of what's going down. We've already talked about the Patriots and how we believe them to be the hottest team in the NFL altogether, and their win against the Bills essentially almost kind of locking up the division for them. what I think is going to be interesting is whether the Patriots are going to hang on to that number one seed, because I think out of these other playoff teams, I think the Chiefs are getting hot, and they're going to take care of business here down the stretch. And I think the Chiefs might give the Patriots a run for their money for that number one seed when it's all said and done.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
I think that could be an interesting race there. I do think that the Patriots and the Chiefs, or we talk about the Patriots, but I do think the Chiefs as well have all but locked up their division, even though they're only a game ahead of the Chargers. I think the Chiefs are moving in the right direction. They'll be fine. Where I think some interesting things are in terms of divisions is the South and the North, where honestly I believe that the Colts are going to end up winning this division. The Colts, they lost a couple weeks ago, but they got back on to the Bucs, but they got back on track with a shutout win against the Texans this week. And to me, right now, they're a much stronger team and a much healthier team than the Titans at this moment. And they're only I think a half a game behind, I think, when it's all said and done. So, it could very well happen, in the next week or two that the Colts end up claiming the lead in this division. And I think if that happens, especially with no word quite yet on when Derrick Henry might be back for the Titans, I think the Colts might end up squeaking past them in the last few weeks of the season and will end up winning this division.
Yeah, it could very well happen. I mean, the Colts are still very much right there. They're second in the AFC South, and they still have a winning record. I mean, they're 7-6, and they're starting to put some wins together. Even though they had that close call with the Bucs, but still they're playing pretty good. I'd say the only team that's probably really going to fall from all the wild cards is probably going to be the Raiders. Probably going to free fall at this point. The Browns still have some potential to do something. The Broncos, not so much. Miami, maybe, but not a whole lot of faith in them at this point. I mean, they have Tua starting to play a little bit better, but
yeah, I mean, Miami's hot. Miami's quietly been a hot team the past several weeks.
Absolutely.
And to me, they're a sneaky team to watch to see if they might, make some noise. I mean, look now, sorry, Bills fans, but the Dolphins are literally right on your tail now. Like, the Bills, we're worried about the Patriots losing the division. Well, if they get worried too much, we talk about them potentially losing to the Bucs this week. All of a sudden, the Dolphins and the Bills are about to have almost the same record.
Exactly. So it could very well happen.
The Bills have some other things they need to start worrying about.
Absolutely.
But I think, furthermore, you talk about the wild card teams. Yeah, I think the Chargers will end up claiming a wild card spot. I think they'll be fine. But I think what's really going to make this interesting down the stretch is the AFC North Division. The AFC North Division, to me, is the hardest one to predict. The Ravens have been struggling mightily in the past few games and have not looked right, even though they have one of the best records in the league. The Steelers, even though I don't have a lot of faith in them, pulling out a win against the Ravens, keeps them alive, and who knows, maybe even sparks something in them, especially with the announcement coming into this week that Ben Roethlisberger said this might be his last season.
Right.
So maybe it's one of those situations for the Steelers where maybe they say, you know what, let's go win one for the guy. And maybe they spark something here in the last month. You never know. The Browns, I'm not too high on, but I think they're still a team that could pull out a shocking win or two that, if anything, even if they end up not making it, could make them spoilers to somebody else. So I think they're a team to feel endangered by. And then you got the Bengals, another team that's been hot and cold recently and tough to predict, where some weeks they look like they could be, one of the better teams, but then some weeks, like this past week against the Chargers, they're looking like they're probably going to run out of steam here at the end. So, these are all four of these teams, these AFC North teams, I feel like you can't predict how either of them are going to play. week in and week out, and therefore, with all their records being so close, you can't predict how that division's going to unfold, and furthermore, what's going to happen with this wild card race, because I think largely, this division's gonna play a large part in that wild card race. So.
Yeah, I agree, man. It's gonna be interesting to monitor within the next coming weeks. That's for sure.
Yeah, but it's gonna be a slugfest, I think.
It will. It's gonna be a slugfest on all fronts, especially in the AFC North, like you mentioned. But yeah, folks, that's essentially the playoff picture as of now. Of course, things could very well change with depending on how the results go for this weekend. But it's going to be an interesting slate of games. I hope you all enjoy it. Anything last minute before we get out of here?
No. I got nothing else.
Good stuff. I think we covered everything. So, folks, thank you all once again for B Money. This is Jay Smooth. And we will see you next week to cover all of the action here on the Rush Hour Sports Network. We're going to cover the scores as well as go over the updated playoff picture like we will do for every week, for the rest of the entire season. So, folks, for B Money, this is Jay Smooth, and we will see you all next week. Until then, we are out.